everyone. Welcome to the third episode of the Pat and Matt podcast. I am Pat and he is
Matt.
And today we're going to be going over some viewer questions because they have sent us some in, and we're going to go over today's Arsenal game. So let's get right into it. I'm going to pull up the questions right now.
I'm excited, Pat.
So my good friend, Carter Wolfel, he says, who is going to finish at the top and the bottom of both conferences? So at the top for me,
This is NBA, Pat?
Yes, this is NBA.
All right, gotcha.
So this is, for the East, I'm taking my 76ers. They've looked really good, and Joel Embiid looks like an MVP this season. And second, the Bucks. Third, the Nets. And fourth, the Celtics. And at last place, I'm going to have to go with the Bulls. Just the Bulls. Because they are not good at all. They don't have, they have one good player, but he's always average this season. He's always been average. And I think if I would have said that in the 90s, people would get really, really mad because they had the great dynasty in the 90s.
Oh, they would have gotten. They'd have thought you were crazy.
I know. And in the Western Conference, I'm going to have to go first Lakers because they're the best team. Last, I'm going to go Timberwolves because Karl-Anthony Towns is injured. What about you, Matt?
Well, thanks, Pat. I'll start with the East since that's where you started. I wanted to say the 76ers, but some part of me thinks that the Brooklyn Nets are really going to start heating up. We know Kyrie.
Mm-hmm.
We know Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can figure out James Harden, I think they're going to finish first. Now, I don't know a lot about the NBA, so I don't think I know enough to pick the bottom team. So I'll switch over to the Western Conference. Hopefully our viewers know by now, I'm a big fan of the Lake Show. Folks, I still think the Lakers in the West are the team to beat. When you've got LeBron and Anthony Davis, that's your first place team. They're the champs. You got to throw in the champs. And don't know enough about the last place team. But I like that question. Thanks, Carter.
All right, our next question comes from Joao Casarin. And he says, can you guys do your early Super Bowl predictions? So for the Super Bowl, I'm going to go the Chiefs. They've been the best team in the NFL. They've only had one loss this season, and it was like a field goal winning game. So I'm going to have to take the Chiefs in a shootout.
Okay.
I think the score will be 40-37.
Well, that'd be an exciting Super Bowl, wouldn't it?
Yes. What do you think, Matt?
Well, I think viewers know by now that I've been picking against Tom Brady each week. And I think that I could potentially have a hat trick of bad choices here, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
I'm not picking against Pat Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Not only does he share your name,
Yes.
but he's an MVP and he's won a Super Bowl. Tom Brady is not going to beat Pat Mahomes this Super Bowl. It's just not going to happen.
You're sounding like Stephen A. Smith over here.
Well, it's just not going to happen.
Stephen A. Smith has a big ego.
Well, I don't have a big ego like
I
Stephen
know,
A.
but he makes he says some stuff about teams.
Well, I'm not saying stuff about
I know.
teams. I'm just saying Pat Mahomes is going to beat Tom Brady. So
Sorry
hopefully,
for any Tampa Bay fans.
there you go. There you go.
And our next question our next question comes from Adrian and Aiden Garmestani. They said, which three teams are going to be relegated this year in the Premier League? And if you didn't know, relegation means the bottom three teams of the Premier League go to the second division of the Premier League. And the teams from the top three teams from the second division come up to the Premier League. So it's not like in the NFL, if you're the last place team, you get the first pick. And if you're like the bottom three teams, you get the first, second, and third pick.
You don't get rewarded for being bad, do you?
You don't get rewarded for
No,
being bad.
and teams aren't trying to tank at the end to get
No.
the first pick, are they?
No.
What happens in the Premier League if you're one of the bottom three teams?
The bottom three teams, they just booted.
You're kicked out of there. You know, so that's
Yeah.
what's exciting about it. So on the last weekend of the season, not only are you watching to see who's going to win the Premier League, those teams at the bottom are still fighting because they don't want to get kicked out. So
I think I'm going to have to go West Bromwich Albion. I'm going to have to go Sheffield United. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here. I'm going to go with the Wolverhampton Wanderers. Is that what the name is?
Yeah, you're right.
Because they have not been very good. They need to start heating up if they want to get out of the relegation zone. Because they're 15th right now. They're only, I think, 6 points above relegation zone. So, but I think if they get Raul Jimenez back, their best striker, I think he might be out for the season with a head injury. But if they would have any chance of getting him back, like next game, then they have a chance. What do you think, Matt?
That's a bold pick because I think lots of so-called experts aren't going to pick Wolverhampton. But you're right; they're just hovering above the relegation zone. I'm going to agree with you on two of the picks: Sheffield United and West Bromwich Albion. I think it's a done deal. I think those two are out of the Premier League.
Yeah.
For my third team, I'm going to pick Fulham. I think it's a race between Fulham and Brighton and Hove Albion, but I think Brighton and Hove Albion has the edge in experience because they were in the Premier League last year.
Yes.
This is Fulham's first year, and what happens with a lot of teams that get promoted, like Pat was saying, they figure out how tough it is and they get demoted. But what we like about this question and what we like about the Premier League is you don't see teams trying to lose so they get the first pick. I think everybody that watches NFL saw, was it going to be the Jets or was it going to be the Jacksonville Jaguars that are going to come in last place so they can all pick Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
In the Premier League, you get kicked out of the league, right?
Yes.
All right. We like that.
So, our last and final question comes from my aunt. She says, should Notre Dame be in a conference? And if so, why? So, I'm going to let Matt start off with this because he knows a lot about Notre Dame football. So, what do you think, Matt?
Thank you for letting me go first, Pat, on this one, especially being Notre Dame. Big fan of Notre Dame, and thank you for deferring to my age on this one. Been a Notre Dame fan all my life, and this is the answer. This is the answer. Absolutely not. And let me tell you why. Notre Dame has a national fan base, Pat.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying they're the best team. I'm not saying that they're the most, their fan base is the most fervent. However, they have a national fan base. We know that you've got Notre Dame football on NBC.
Yes.
Now, are other college teams getting a lot of money through television contracts?
Yes.
Sure they are, but it's the SEC on ESPN. It's the Pac-12. It's not that team. Notre Dame's the only one that's got its own network. Let me tell you what else. Notre Dame has a national fan base.
Yes.
That means they can go anywhere across the country.
And they'll still have fans.
No matter what. You know, when Notre Dame plays a team, I know people sometimes get a little bit jealous, Pat, but everybody circles their calendar because Notre Dame's coming to town. And you know what else happens?
What?
They sell those tickets out faster than any other game on the schedule because Notre Dame's coming to town. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is, with Notre Dame's national fan base, when I went out to visit Uncle Joe in Southern California, we went to a sporting goods store. You could get a USC shirt, you could get a UCLA shirt, and you could get a Notre Dame shirt. We live here in Huntington, West Virginia, Pat. If we go to Dick's, we can get a Marshall shirt, we can get a WV shirt. We're close enough to Ohio State. You're going to get an Ohio State shirt. Guess what else shirt you're going to get?
Notre Dame.
All across the country, you're going to run into that because they've got a national fan base. So no, folks, and guess what? Notre Dame doesn't have to. All right? That's just the way it is. People who love Notre Dame or they hate Notre Dame, I happen to love them. And guess what, guys? They don't have to, so they're going to stay independent. What do you think, Pat?
So, this might be controversial to him because he's told me all my life Notre Dame does not need to be in a conference. They get enough money on their own. But
I don't like where you're going with this,
But in
Pat.
my opinion, I think they need to join the ACC. They would have their chances of winning the national championship would go way more up if they were in the ACC. But I'll tell you why.
Yeah, this better be good.
First of all, I have two reasons.
Okay.
They'll get more money, I guess.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
And the second reason, they couldn't be like the Notre Dame team that doesn't play in a conference and doesn't play any tough schedules. Because they play tough schedules even when they're not in conferences. But when they're in the ACC, I feel like every week they would have decent competition. I think they could learn from that. I think they can progress better. and they would just have better chances at making the national championship game. So ESPN doesn't have to give the excuse that Notre Dame aren't in a conference, so they can't make the title game.
I might have to take a break. I'm shocked. For folks that don't know, Pat and I talk about what our topics are going to be, but we don't know what we're going to say. I thought Pat was going to be on board with it because he's right. All his life, Notre Dame should be independent. I hardly know you, Pat. I am flabbergasted here. We're going to have to strongly disagree, but that's okay. That's what the Pat and Matt show's about. All right.
So let's quickly do a rundown of the Arsenal game because not much happened today. It was a tie to 0-0 against Man United. I just think it was a boring game in general. Arsenal got 1 point, but we would have liked 3 in my opinion. And I don't have much to say about the game. It was just slow. What do you think, Matt?
Pat, you're right. We'll agree on this one.
Yeah.
Not on Notre Dame, but we'll agree on this one. You know, some games, soccer games, this was one that was a little slow. I was excited because Arsenal played Manchester United.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, Manchester United is one of the biggest soccer clubs in the world. They are sort of like the Dallas Cowboys are to the NFL. And I was really excited about this game. But sometimes with these games where it's the top teams playing, and Arsenal's a top team as well, I might add.
Yes.
They're moving up.
They're counted as the Big Six. That's
Right.
what most people like to say it.
Right. They're one of the big 6 clubs, and we'll talk a little bit about that in another episode.
Yes.
But sometimes when the big teams play each other, they both play a little too cautious because they're they know how good the other team is. Teams don't want to make mistakes. And what do we like to see teams play to what?
Win,
Yes.
not to tie.
I'd rather a team I cheer for lose because they were going for the goal than to play conservative. So we can hope that'll happen in the future.
Yes. So that ends our episode there. That's all we're going to talk about. But we have a little teaser for next episode. We're not going to tell you guys much, but we might have some info about Randy Moss and Jason Williams playing here in West Virginia against my mom's old high school. We're going to get some information from one of her friends. Hopefully we can get that in the next episode.
One of her friends that actually...
That played on the team, played AAU with both of them too. And yeah, so we might have that in the next episode. I can't guarantee that yet, but I think we should.
Some real inside scoop is
Yes.
what we're saying.
Also, I would like to add before we end 2 things. 4 days ago, it was the tragic anniversary of when Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash, along with 13 other people, including his daughter. And they're going to his daughter's basketball game. So I just want to say rest in peace to all the people who died.
That's nice, Pat, because Pat is a big, and me, big Kobe fans.
Also, the other thing to add, I want to give a quick shout out to someone, one of my good friends. I'll leave his channel in the description. His name is Cash Rat Bro. I've known him almost my entire life, and he started a YouTube channel recently, and I think it would mean a lot to him if some of you guys went and subscribed to his channel and liked his videos. So I think that ends our episode. And subscribe, please.
Like and subscribe, and just like Pat said, we're going to focus, hopefully get some inside scoop.
Yes.
But you know how we do it here. We're always going to sprinkle in some Premier League.
Yes.
We're going to sprinkle in some NBA. So we'll keep that good news coming too.
Also, if you guys have any suggestions, email us or comment on our video. Our email is thepatandmattpodcast@gmail.com. I'll also leave that in the description so you guys can just copy and paste that.
Pat checks those emails, folks.
I check them. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been watching us. I want to say thank you for watching us the whole time through our journey. So thank you guys.
That's right.
And that ends our episode. So I'll see you guys next week. And we hope to give you a good episode.
Oh, we will. It's going to be fun, right, Pat?
Yes.
We really appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.